Okay, so I did a dumb thing. I read an article on Sky News. That's not the thing, although I suppose that is quite dumb by itself. I was curious about this great revision of entertainment that seems to be happening right now, with shows being removed from Netflix and BBC as a consequence of the Black Lives Matter protests that are going on across the globe. First I wasn't too bothered, and then I saw in the headlines, Mighty Boosh, League of Gentlemen. I'm thinking, the Mighty Boosh, it's the most innocent thing ever. League of Gentlemen, it's a British institution. So then I think, right, that does it. This has gone far enough. So what would usually happen next is I get on my soapbox about it, come into contact with other people that are on their soapbox about it, and before you know it, we're printing t-shirts and flinging around quotes from Orwell and taking a heroic stand against the iron fist of censorship. So that's when I caught myself doing a dumb thing. And I thought to myself, well, let's look at the facts rather than the print. See, what I'm not getting in my newsfeed is any mention of the fact that these shows and films are still available elsewhere, that most of the organizations currently removing the material from rotation have, in all likelihood, every intent to bring them back. They do sell, after all. Now, that might be useful to know before I take to Hyde Park and start sounding no better than the teenagers who puke up uncooked ideals for the birds. It might be useful to know that these gestures of retraction are driven by commerce, that real thinkers on the left and the right are going to disown this stupidity in weeks to come. It would be good to know that this is a stunt and not the vanguard of a Maoist revolution, at least not yet. It would be very useful to know that before I started sounding like an idiot. So why aren't these articles telling you these things? Why isn't that side of the story coming up in your newsfeed? Well, you're not seeing that side of it because they want you to do what I nearly did. They want you to be righteously indignant, to be quick, to be angry. They want you to draw even harder fire from your alleged enemies. They want to guarantee escalation, because then they have a product. They have a news cycle, the modern currency of which is mindless public engagement. Big news corporations, and especially these days, and these are the more dangerous ones, big social media companies and their funneling algorithms, these organizations have big stakes, big spending, big debts, and big expectations from investors. They've grown so much that in order to be able to survive as businesses, they need to be able to make projections. They've crossed a line beyond which it's no longer a case of supply and demand, but of the creation of demand in order to ensure that the business will always have the potential to grow. If demand dries up, then social engagement is always there to fill in the cracks. What's your view? They ask. What do you think? Have your say. But like so many marketing strategies, this is a narrowing of options, disguised as something in the spirit of consumer emancipation. You'll be invited to contribute your first, angriest, and least considered opinion, which will then be used as a red flag in order to enrage the enemies that they have chosen for you. You're not having your say. You're not participating in the engagement revolution or giving a voice to the unheard. You are being used to perpetuate conflict, because conflict is narrative, and narrative is the engine of media businesses, of public communication businesses. These concerns might seem a bit beside the point at first glance, but these are examples of how we're being encouraged to run with our worst assumptions, without any benefit of doubt or any assumption of good faith. And that sort of thing is an obstacle to every good human endeavor. Now, I will say, though, that we need journalism, and we need reporters on the ground. I'd go as far as to say that even a corrupt news agency is better than none at all. And I don't want to suggest that people shouldn't engage, only that perhaps the next time we feel armchair outrage, we might stop to think about what part we are playing in someone else's agenda. Because if we allow corporations and algorithms to funnel us into binary factions because those organizations can't afford the instability of authentic public discourse, then the opportunity to reach agreement and make real progress will be cancelled indefinitely. And that's the real Orwellian outcome. A boot stamping on a human face forever. Perhaps a sock.